Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. I hope you're having a good afternoon. My name is Michael Penn. I'm the first vice president of the club, and I'll be your moderator for today. I think this is a very important speaker that we're having today because, as we all know, the issue of Okinawa is in Japanese politics and perhaps in regional politics one of the most significant issues going on right now. Our speaker for today is Mr. Jun Shimabukuro, who's sitting next to me. He's a professor of politics at the University of the Ryukyus, and he is associated with the All-Okinawa-Council, which is a group which is endeavoring to bring more international attention to the issue and not allow it to be simply a domestic Japanese issue. And he's going to talk to us today about his activities and other matters. On the far end, we have Yukako Ninomiya, who will be our interpreter for today. So with that, we'll get started. Of course, as usual, we'll begin with an opening presentation by the speaker, and then we'll open it up to your questions. So please, Mr. Shimabukuro, the floor is yours.
ぐすよ中がなびらというのが沖縄でいうところの、皆さんこんにちはお元気ですかという挨拶です。
So I'd like to start my presentation with an Okinawan greeting, which is Gusuyo Chu Nabira, or my way of saying hello, everybody.
今日は沖縄から、沖縄の状況について少しお話し、それから今私たち、憲白書を実現し未来を開く島ぐるみ会議がですね、国際的特に国連に対して、取り組んできたことをお話ししたいと思います。
Today I'm here from Okinawa to share with you the current situation that we face in Okinawa. And I would also like to explain the activities that we at the All-Okinawa-Council have been doing. The formal name of my organization is the Island-Wide Council for Okinawan Petition and Leading to the Future. And I'd like to explain specifically what we have been doing in the international arena with the United Nations.
なぜこのような場をお借りして、記者会見をさせていただくか、そして、国連の場にこういった問題を持って、いかなければならないのかということに関してですが、この新聞昨日の沖縄の新聞ですね、沖縄の新聞はこのような、一面と最後の面といいますか全部ですねこれを使って、沖縄の県民大会が開催されて、そこで普天間の辺野古移設に対する反対の意思が、改めて、確認されたという報道がされています。
The reason why we are here today to have this press conference, and also the reason why we've really had to go to the United Nations with our case, has to do with the issue that I am sharing with you right now. As you can see, this is a paper from Okinawa. As of yesterday, the front and final pages have been dedicated to a full spread where we're showing the Grand Assembly of Okinawans. Here we've been able to confirm once again the determination of the Okinawan residents against relocating the Futenma base to Henoko.
このような沖縄の問題、沖縄の民主的な抵抗の動き、そういったものが日本のメディアではもはやほとんど報道されない、あるいは報道されるとしても非常に小さな扱い、そういったもはや構造的な問題ですね、それがますます大きくなりつつあります。そこで私たちはこのような場をお借りし、記者会見をさせていただき、さらに国連あるいはアメリカに直接訴えるということをやらざるを得ないという状況なわけです。
Now, this issue in Okinawa that the Okinawan people are showing a democratic opposition to the relocation here, this case is very rarely picked up by the Japanese media, and even when it is carried by the Japanese media, it's usually only very minimal. So we face a serious structural issue which has been growing bigger and bigger. That's the very reason why we have asked for this forum today, and also why we believe we have no choice but to go directly to the United Nations and the USA with our case.
はい、では私たちの島ぐるみ会議というものについて少しだけお話ししたいと思います。島ぐるみ会議は去年の7月27日に結成されました。これは市民中心の一人一人の会員の参加によって一人一人の会費の、提供によって成り立っている市民運動グループです。党派を問わずすべての沖縄の方々、どのような団体に所属しようと、どのような党派に所属しようと加入することが可能ということで広く呼びかけて作られた市民運動団体です。
I'd like to speak a little bit about my organization, the All-Okinawa-Council. We were launched as of July 27th last year. This is basically a residence group. We collect a membership fee from each of our members, and this group is actually open to people of all factions, regardless of what organization they may belong to. So we have a very broad membership base.
そしてですね、このグループで市民運動団体で取り組むべき、仕事としてですね、5点、私たちは決めました。それは第一に、辺野古にですね、毎日人を市民を運ぶという、チャーターバスをですね派遣して、辺野古に実際に市民運動として現場に参加してもらうということが第一点。
Now, as a civil movement group, we have been focusing on 5 different activities. The first one being to basically take the people to Henoko, to the actual site. So we have been deploying a chartered bus on a daily basis so that we can take them to Henoko for the people to see what's happening.
そして2番目にですね、県内のさまざまな団体との連携、これは経済界、労働組合、さまざまな団体を参助会員になっていただき、声をかけ、そして参加していただくということと同時に、市町村ごとに島ぐるみ会議というものを設置してほしいという呼びかけです。現在、それに応える形で、少なくとも今は現在で10ほどの市町村団体が設置されています。
Our second focus of activity has been to reach out and collaborate with various groups and organizations throughout Okinawa. So we have been reaching out to the business community, to the labor unions, and have been asking them to become supporters in our group. In addition to calling out to these organizations to become members, we are also calling on the municipalities in the prefecture to create their own All-Okinawa-Council representative group. We currently have about 10 such groups that have been established.
はい。そして3番目に国内の世論喚起ということで、ですね、同じような主体を各県に作ってもらって、少なくとも一度はシンポジウムあるいは集会、そういったものを開催していただきたいということで、今全国にお願いをしていて、5月23日に山口県で始まり、6月5日に京都、それから6月5日に大阪、6月6日に京都ということで、次々と各県でこのようなシンポジウムもしくは集会を開催するという今手はずが整ってきつつあります。
山口何日でしたっけ
？23日です。
And thirdly, we are hoping to influence public opinion domestically. We would like to see brother or sister organizations to the All-Okinawa-Council established in every prefecture in the country and then hold at least one symposium or some kind of a rally. So we have been reaching out to other partners across the country. We will start off with a gathering in Yamaguchi on May 23rd. After that, we go to Osaka June 5th and Kyoto June 6th.
はい。そしてアメリカへの働きかけ、この点につきましては今辺野古基金が設立されて、そこに比重が移りつつあるんですが、アメリカにどういう働きかけをするか、これを検討してまいりました。
And then we also would like to address this case with the United States. Currently, the majority of that activity, a lot of the heavy lifting is being done more and more by the Henoko Fund, which was established. But in any case, we would like to address this case directly with the U.S.
そして5番目に国連への働きかけということです。国連への働きかけは 特別報告者スペシャル、ラポトワー、特別報告者の沖縄への招聘、それから、定期的、これはユニバーサルピリオディカルレビューですね、それのアメリカ審査へのロビー活動、そしてさまざまな国連の人権委員会への書面の提出、それから将来的には人権理事会で沖縄の代表が演説する機会を設けることができればと考えています。
And then, number 5, we are also working on activities targeted towards the United Nations. We would like to invite the UN Special Rapporteur to Okinawa. We have also been lobbying the Universal Periodic Review reporting work as they have been doing their UPR of the United States. We have also been submitting various reports to the United Nations bodies that deal with human rights. Ultimately, we hope to create an opportunity for a speaker from Okinawa to actually speak at the United Nations Human Rights Council.
はい、そしてですね、特に今回4月1日2日に国連人権理事会の UPR 審査、これに向けてさまざまな取り組みを行ってきました。今日はこの点ですね、UPR のアメリカ審査の結果が出ましたので、それについてご報告したいと思っています。
More recently, we have been focusing on the Universal Periodic Review on the United States of America being undertaken by the United Nations Human Rights Council. We have had some results and achievements that we've made in this review, and in today's conference, I'd like to be able to share those results.
で、訴えた点は主に4つの点です。まず第一に沖縄が、持っている自己決定権および土地の権利に対する侵害、これを第一に訴えました。第2番目に環境権の侵害、第3番目に女性の権利の侵害、そして4番目に、表現の自由、集会結社の自由、こういった民主主義の基盤となる自由についての侵害を訴えました。これにつきましては資料をお配りしてありますので、見ていただければというふうに思います。
We focused our claim on the following 4 points. The first being that in Okinawa, our right to self-determination and our right to land has been violated. Secondly, our environmental rights have been violated. Thirdly, the rights for women have been violated. And fourthly, the very basis of democracy, which is the right to the freedom of expression and also the freedom of association, have been violated. We have provided handouts today to explain more thoroughly these points. So I would like to ask you to please refer to the material.
まず第一の自己決定権なんですが、沖縄は1789年まで独立王国でした。独立王国で国際法上の主体であったということができます。それをですね、武力による威嚇で強制的にその意思に背いて併合されたという事実があります。お願いします。
So, the first point that I made was that our right to self-determination has been violated. Now, Okinawa was actually an independent kingdom in 1789, so it was a recognized entity by international law. However, through the use of military force and against its will, Okinawa was actually taken over and annexed.
併合後もですね、国内植民地としての扱いを受け、差別的な構造が長い間温存されてきました。
And following the annexation, Okinawa continued to be treated almost like a domestic colony, and there has been a very rigid structure of discrimination against Okinawa for a long period of time.
1945年以降のアメリカ軍の支配、その元におけるアメリカ軍基地の建設、それもそういった差別的な構造の 結果です。
The rule by the U.S. military since 1945 and the construction of various bases throughout Okinawa is also a result of this discrimination.
従いまして我々は、自由権規約および社会権規約の第1条のすべての人民は自決権を有する、その人民に相当するということを主張してまいりました。
Therefore, we have claimed that this is a violation of Article 1 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the land rights of indigenous people. We believe that the Okinawans qualify as the indigenous people.
で、この自己決定権ということに基づいて、我々は自らの、土地、海、空、そして資源に関する自己決定権を有するということですね。それに、日本政府の決定、そしてアメリカと日本政府だけが決定するということは、その権利を侵害することに該当するということです。
So, in light of the right to self-determination, we also possess a right to our land, right to our ocean, the skies, and all of the resources that are located within our territory. The fact that the Japanese government and the U.S. government alone are making decisions that pertain to our resources and our territory is a violation of our right to self-determination.
去年のすべての選挙の結果ですね、辺野古の基地の反対が住民の意思として、沖縄の人々の意思として明白になっているにもかかわらず、この建設を強行することは自己決定権に関する違反だと、考えています。
Last year, the results of all of the elections that were held clearly showed that the people of Okinawa are opposed to a relocation to Henoko. Despite that, the construction work to relocate the base there is continuing, and that is a violation of our right to self-determination.
はい、次に環境権の侵害についてです。辺野古の海はですね、入り合いの海で長い間地元の人々が保全そして活用してきた海です。その海に対して大きなですねブロックを沈め、アンカーとしてブロックを沈め、さまざまな環境の破壊を引き起こしています。
The second point is the violation of our environmental rights. The Henoko Bay is an inlet bay, and here the local residents have been protecting the natural environment here as well as making use of it for a long time. However, for the sake of construction, they have sunk huge blocks of concrete there, and that is causing massive environmental damage.
はい、環境の被害に関しましては、今の建設途中の、辺野古の問題もさることながら、沖縄の基地に関して、地元の自治体、県、がですね、立ち入り調査を行うことができないという非常に大きな問題があり、大抑信が埋まっていたですとか、その後ですね、さまざまな問題が起こっているにもかかわらず、事前に全く調査できないという大きな問題が生じています。
Now, with regards to the environmental damage, certainly there's a huge deal of damage that the construction work currently in progress has wrought on the area. But in addition to that, the prefecture, Okinawa Prefecture itself is unable to conduct any kind of inspection or have access to these bases on site. So they are not able to observe or monitor what is happening. This has led to other issues as well. We have had cases of baried dioxin, which is toxic. Despite the fact that there have been many issues like this, there has been no means for us or the prefecture to go in and gain access to these sites.
はい、続きまして、女性の権利に対する侵害、女性への性暴力についてです。
Next, I'd like to talk about a violation of women's rights and specifically sexual violence against women.
これは復帰後におきましてもさまざまな犯罪が引き起こされていまして、しかも発覚するのは ほんの一角にしか過ぎないですね。沖縄におきましては、日常的に非常に活発な訓練をアメリカ軍海兵隊が行っていまして、戦場における性暴力に近い状態、それが沖縄においては生じている、発生していると考えても差し支えないと思います。
Now, there have been many crimes committed against women in this area, even after Okinawa was returned to Japan. And the cases that we are aware of are only the very tip of the iceberg. In Okinawa, the U.S. military and Marines undergo very intense military training. So in our view, we believe that the sexual violence against women in Okinawa is akin to wartime sexual violence.
はい、それが今の日本の制度の中では、アメリカ兵を裁く権利が日本の司法にはありません。で、アメリカにおきましては軍事裁判で、ほとんどの犯罪を犯した兵隊さんたちがですね、処罰されないという大きな問題があります。
Now, in the current Japanese judicial system, we are not able to have these the perpetrators of the crime tried. Rather, they are tried in a U.S. military court, and in most cases, the majority of these servicemen who have committed crimes are acquitted.
次に表現の自由の侵害についてですね、これはあまり日本本土では知られていないんですが、辺野古の建設現場では県民が、沖縄の人々が300日以上連続してデモを行っています。この平和的な抗議デモに関しまして警察、それから海上保安庁の職員の方がですね、非常に暴力的な取り締まり、あるいは弾圧を行っているという状況です。
And then, as for the freedom of expression, although this is a fact not well known in the rest of Japan, in Henoko, around the Henoko area, the Okinawans have been holding peaceful protests for more than 300 days consecutively. Now, these peaceful protests, despite the fact that they're being held peacefully and democratically, the police have been very forcible in trying to contain these protests.
これは地元の新聞に載せられた記事ですね。こういう形ですね、馬乗りになるとか、それから首を絞めるですとか、それからこれは山城宏次という、住民運動のリーダーの方がですね、アメリカ軍の警備の方に、逮捕されて拘束されて連れて行かれた状況です。こういう状況ですね。連日平和な活動に関して警察、そして海上保安庁の暴力が行われているということです。これは表現の自由、結社の自由、集会結社の自由に反する、侵害する行為だと、私たちは憤っているわけです。
The images that I just showed you are from a local newspaper. We see that some of the protesters are being straddled over, or their necks are being choked. The other final image that I showed you is one of our citizens' movement's leader, Mr. Hiroji Yamashiro, who was detained by security forces at the U.S. military base. So despite the fact that the members are involved in a peaceful protest, we are subject to violent actions by the police and also the Japanese Coast Guard. These actions are an infringement on our right to expression and also our freedom of peaceful assembly and association.
このような資料も国連の方に持って行って、そしてロビー活動をしてきました。で、今回ですね、国連の取り組みは特別報告者を招聘すること、これ6月中に来てくれる今状況になっていまして、それで最終的な調整をしている段階です。
Now, These were also included in the materials that we submitted to the United Nations as a part of our lobbying efforts. Our main initiative with the United Nations now is to invite the special rapporteur to Okinawa in June. We are currently in the final stages of coordinating that visit.
それから次に、人権理事国47カ国に、この資料を送付し、そして、アメリカ審査の中で取り上げてほしいという、訴えをしました。
And next, we also asked for the 47 member states of the Human Rights Council to include the material that we sent as a part of their Universal Periodic Review on the case of the United States.
で、成果のいくつかを紹介したいと思います。対米審査報告において、我々のルビーの成果として、まず中国ですね、中国の方から出てきました。これは英語でお願いできますか。
So I'd just like to share with you some of the results of our lobbying efforts. First, we heard from China that they had made a recommendation regarding the review for the United States. And Professor Shimabukuro just asked me to read out this section in English. So on the paper it says, respect indigenous peoples and ethnic minorities' rights and interests. Fully consult with them on their land, autonomy, environment, language, and other issues. Correct the historical injustice and offer compensation. That's China.
はい、これではオートノミーっていう英語が使われていますが、元の原文では自己決定権という我々が使っていた言葉を使ってくれています。
Here the English uses the word autonomy, but in the original language they're actually using the same phrase that we had first used, which is the right to self-determination.
で、次にですね、モルドバですね。これも資料を提供しています。
And the next example that I'd like to cite is the recommendation from the Republic of Moldova.
はい。
Regularly consult with indigenous peoples on matters of interest to their communities, to support their rights to traditionally owned lands and resources, and to adopt measures to effectively protect sacred areas of indigenous peoples against environmental exploitation and degradation.
はい、次に、アルゼンチンです。アルゼンチンの方は資料を提供し非常に関心を示してくれたんですが、ちょっと向こうに緊急の会議が入ってしまって会えなかったんですが、これも我々の資料を読んでくれたと、理解しています。
And the next example is from Argentina. They read through our documents and they were very interested in our case. Unfortunately, we were not able to have a face-to-face meeting since they had an emergency meeting that they had to go to, but again, they were very understanding of our situation. And just to read out, it says, adopt legal and administrative measures to make effective the investigation and sanction of violations of human rights during international operations in which members of armed forces and other government agents participate.
はい。非常に重要なのはネイティブアメリカンという概念ではなくてインディジニアスピーポーという言葉を使っており、これアメリカは世界中に軍隊を派遣していますので、そういったところでの先住民族に対する権利侵害も含まれていると、私たちは解釈しています。
A very important distinction here is that rather than refer to Native Americans, the word indigenous people is being used. The U.S. has military operations all over the world, so from our point of view, their actions are a violation of the rights of indigenous peoples.
通常 UPR というところは審査対象国の国内の人権問題を議論する場と、考えられてきましたが、その国がですね、世界中に軍隊を展開し、そして国際的な活動を行っている場合は、そういった国際活動にも適用されるということで、アルゼンチンをはじめ他の国がこの問題を取り上げてくれるということは非常に心強い、ことだと思います。
Typically, the UPR is meant to be a review of that country's domestic human rights issues. However, in the case when that country has military operations deployed around the world or is involved in international activities, then the review is also applied to those international activities as well. The fact that Argentina and other countries have taken this into consideration is very encouraging for us.
マケドニアとフィンランドはこれ先住民族の女性に対する暴力、特に性暴力について、調査をするように勧告しています。これも読んでもらいます。
And also, the Republic of Macedonia and Finland have recommended that the violations of women's rights and sexual violence against women should be investigated. And to quote here, guarantee the right to access to justice and effective remedies to all indigenous women who were victims of violence. That's Macedonia. And then from Finland, continue to pay attention to violence against indigenous women by ensuring that all reports of violence, in particular sexual violence and rape against indigenous women, are thoroughly investigated with a focus on ending impunity and bringing perpetrators before justice.
はい。このような結果が出たんですが、アメリカ政府はこれに対して何らかの回答を9月までに作らなければならない、ということになっています。ですから明日尾長さんが来るんですが、尾長さんが我々の活動を受け取ってくれて、そしてアメリカにおいてですね、このような状況になっていると。で、何かしら回答があればということを言ってもらえれば、我々としては非常にその県庁の方と連携し、で沖縄の人権を拡大するために貢献できるということで、そういった希望を持っています。で、いいですか。お願いします。
So those are the achievements that we have had in our lobbying activities. The U.S. government must provide some form of a response by September. Now, tomorrow, our Governor Onaga will be here, and our hope is that he will be understanding of the work that we have been doing and will also encourage the U.S. to provide a response in the near future. Through this type of collaboration, I believe that we've been able to work very closely with the Okinawan government in order to increase and expand the human rights of the Okinawans, and we're very hopeful that our activities will contribute to that goal.
そして最後にですが、今後の狙いとしてはこの9月の国連の人権理事会に、沖縄の代表の方を出席させて、演説していただきたいと、できれば尾長さんに言っていただきたいというのが我々の今のところの希望です。それが非常に大きなインパクトをもたらしですね、辺野古の移設の問題に関してもですね、非常に大きな影響力を持つと考えていますので、そのような取り組みを行っていきたいと考えています。じゃあ以上で私からの話を終わりたいと思います。どうもありがとうございました。
So, in September, when the Human Rights Council has its main assembly, we are hoping to send somebody from Okinawa to represent Okinawa and speak there. We would very much like for Governor Onaga to be able to go there. If he's able to speak before the Human Rights Council, then I believe that it will have a tremendous impact in swaying opinion against the relocation of Henoko. So that is one of the main initiatives that we are working towards. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, we jumped the gun on the applause there at the end of the Japanese section, but there's a little for the English section as well. Well, we now move into the Q&A section of the event. The microphone is over here. When I call on you, please give your name and affiliation, and then ask your question. So I'm looking for hands from now. Does everybody already know everything about Okinawa? Okay, yes.
フリーランスのデューク石川です。さっきその1784年まで独立国だったという話、私もこれずっと興味を持ってまして、せっかくその、 代表が沖縄ワシントンへ行くときに、アメリカの主要な新聞とかそれから政府の高官にこういう優等生的なアプローチじゃなくてね、沖縄は琉球として独立してもいいんだよみたいなねことをちょっとちらつかせるそういう動きはどうでしょうか。これはもうとっても深刻な話ですよね。
ですね。
First, can we have an interpretation of the question?
Okay, the question was, my name is Ishikawa, I'm a freelance journalist. Now, having heard just right now that Okinawa was an independent kingdom, a kingdom of Ryukyu until 1784, well, I've always been interested in that historical aspect. Now, when our leader goes to Washington and meets with the major media, with the newspapers and even the senior officials of the U.S. government, instead of just providing role model, typical responses, it may actually be worthwhile to suggest or hint that Ryukyu could one day still again try to be an independent kingdom. And I think that kind of suggesting that might be effective because I know how serious of an issue we currently face.
はい、尾長さんは去年の選挙の前から自己決定権という言葉を非常に多用するようになっているんですよね。そして、沖縄の特に、復帰前のその島ぐるみ闘争の歴史を、語り、そしてそれを菅官房長官なり、そして、安倍首相に言うようになってきているわけですね。そしてイデオロギーよりもアイデンティティを重視するという、話をされるようになってきました。
Now, Governor Onaga, even before last year's election, has taken to using the word right to self-determination quite frequently. He has also made reference to the All-Okinawan movement and the struggles that Okinawa went through prior to being returned to Japan. He has actually spoken about that to Chief Cabinet Secretary Suga and also Prime Minister Abe. He's also said that now is the time to give priority not to ideology but to the identity.
このアイデンティティというのがうちなんちゅとしてのアイデンティティ、特に歴史的な闘争を経て築かれてきた沖縄の人々のアイデンティティ、私はそう理解しているんですが、ですから今後の可能性としては今おっしゃられたような自分たちのアイデンティティのもとに自己決定権があり、それに基づいて日米両政府に訴えるという戦略、これ尾長さんの戦略なんですけれども、そういったものが取られる可能性は私はあると見ていまして、それで、そういったことに関していろいろアイディアを地元紙に提供するなり、それから間接的にですが直接会ったことはなかなかないんですが、お話ししている段階です。
Now, I take that to mean that the very uniquely Okinawan identity that has been formed through the various historical struggles and conflicts that our people have had to endure. And certainly I believe that the proposal just made could provide us with a possibility for the future, that our self-identity and the right to self-determination based on our own identity should be at the basis of the case that we make towards the Japanese government and the U.S. government. Now, I believe that that is the strategy that Governor Onaga has taken, and certainly, even though I have not had much opportunity to speak with him directly, if he could share those ideas with local media and others that he comes across, it could become very effective.
Joel.
Joël Legendre from RTL France, France Rosso Tokuhain. If my memory is is correct, in the Middle Age during Hideyoshi, when Hideyoshi wanted to launch his campaign to Korea and China, the King Sho of, I think it was the King Sho of Okinawa, answered, well, it's difficult to join you because we have our interest with China and we have also our trade in the region. So centuries after, do you think we are in the same situation? Today Okinawa has some responsibility apparently with China or vis-a-vis China and its communities, the Huaqiao, the overseas Chinese, Taiwan, and also you have your interest in terms of trade. I heard that you have many ambition about economy. Many figures come out that you could have a sort of autonomy because you have more and more business interest in Okinawa. So centuries after, aren't we in the same situation today? A dependence vis-a-vis China in some way, and a dependence vis-a-vis trade. Okay? Do you understand?
最後の方が聞こえない。
そうですね。中国との貿易であったりとか。失礼しました。ですね、豊臣秀吉がかつてその朝鮮、中国を併合しようとしたときに、沖縄のその時の周王様が、中国とは関係もあり、中国との貿易もあるので、その面で豊臣秀吉と協力することは難しいと言ったと記憶しています。で、何世紀も経って、今も実は状況としては同じではないでしょうか。中国との関係もある、中国との貿易も重視している、で、自己決定権を持つにあたっても、その経済を拡大させなければいけないという経済の重要性もあるので、結局、今、何百年も経った後ですが、今もその中国に依存している、あるいは頼っているというような状況は、今もまた同じなんでしょうか。
ですね、確かに琉球王国というものは中国との貿易によって国家の財政基盤を作ってきたという歴史があります。でこれがなぜ薩摩が琉球を侵略しながらも琉球のその自治を認めたかというと、冊封体制というこの中国との貿易体制を維持することこそが薩摩の狙いだったんで、したがって沖縄の独立性をずっと残しておいたということですね。で今日、の状況において経済的な利害関係が深いのは沖縄ね、さまざまな沖縄の地域の沖縄経済と言われているものよりも日本経済そのものがおそらく中国との関係がさらに深い関係になっているのではないかと私は思います。特に、もう貿易関係ですね、中国との取引が、30兆円30億ドルでしたかね、ちょっと数字が忘れたんですが、対米の貿易収支よりももう中国との関係の方が非常に大きく深まっている状況でですね、で沖縄は確かに中国に近くですね、中国との関係を深めることによって経済的発展は展望できるという流れの中で、国際都市形成構想も作られ、さらに、今の計画も中国、台湾、韓国との関係を非常に重視している計画になっています。
Yes, so it's true that the Ryukyu kingdom flourished based on its trade with China, and the Satsuma Han, even though it basically took over Ryukyu, still granted self-rule to Ryukyu primarily because it wanted to maintain that trade and relationship with China through Ryukyu. That's the reason why self-autonomy, self-rule was allowed for Ryukyu. Now, when you think about today's state, in terms of economic interests, I would say that far more than the Okinawan economy, it's actually the Japanese economy as a whole, which has developed a very deep and intimate economic relationship with China, because although the numbers escape me, I believe that our trade with China now is worth $3 billion, or perhaps it was 30 trillion yen, something like that. In any case, it's actually on a larger scale than the trade that we have with the U.S. Now, Okinawa has been is very close to China. And of course, there is hope that we can expand our economy through that relationship. That was the basis of our vision to establish an international city, and even now that plan is based on a close relationship with China and Taiwan.
ただしこれは日本全体の中での経済関係、財政関係を断ち切ってその代わりに中国との関係を深めようというような構想でも計画でもありません。今までの沖縄県庁が出したものはですね、あくまで、日本経済あるいは日本の財政関係の中でですね、基地に歪められた部分を直してほしいと、基地によって、保証のようにしてですね、基地に対する見返り雨というような形で、非常に何ですかね、筋の悪い、これ英語に訳しにくいですね、非常にその問題のある補助の体系がある、これを除去して直してほしいという要求はしていますが、これをですね、日本本土との経済関係、財政関係をすべて断ち切って中国に依存するというようなビジョンを沖縄はかつて今でも持ったことはない状況です。ただし今後この辺野古の建設が進めばこれも真剣に考えざるを得なくなるということは言えるかと思います。この経済財政関係の中で基地が固定化され、さらにこの基地は今経済発展の阻害要因ということで強く言われていますので、もしかしたらこの基地を除去するために日本の経済関係財政関係を見直すという意見が世論が強くなっていく可能性は私はあると見ています。
However, our plan for development in this vision certainly does not assume that we will be severing our ties with the Japanese economy or the Japanese fiscal system and instead partner with China. That is definitely not the case in this plan. Now, the Okinawan government has been making requests while we are a part of the overall Japanese economy and fiscal system. We have an unfair burden that is being forced on us because of the base. And because of the military bases, because of that military presence, in a way we are being given problematic compensation. It's could be considered carrots for having the base, or in any case, compensation and return, if you will, for having the bases. And the Okinawan government position has been to ask for that element of the issue, the bases, to be removed or to be rectified. It's certainly not as if the Okinawan government envisions that we will one day have a closer economic relationship with China by cutting our ties to the Japanese economy. However, with the relocation to Henoko proceeding, then perhaps we will have no choice but to consider that alternative more seriously in the future. If by staying a part of the Japanese economy, the military bases become permanent fixtures in Okinawa, then because we already know that the bases are barriers to Okinawa's economic development, we may start to see public opinion growing stronger and stronger that in order to have those bases and that barrier removed, we will need to seek an alternative to staying a part of Japan's system.
Okay, now we've warmed up and suddenly the hands are going up, but we have only 9 minutes left. I saw Christoph first.
Süddeutsche Zeitung Neidhardt. Your situation might be different if the previous governor Nakayama wouldn't all of a sudden have changed his mind about a year and a half ago. Do you have any explanation why he did that? I mean, he was against Henoko for quite some years. And to what extent has this damaged your cause? Thanks.
ひょっとすると、中今前知事が1年半ほど前に考えを、変えていなければ今状況は違ったかもしれないと思っています。でもうずいぶん長い間、中今前知事も辺野古移設に反対をしていたかと思うんですが、それをなぜ考えを変えられたのかはご存知ですか。
はい、
ごめんなさい。そしてそれが島袋さんたちの活動にどういった悪影響を及ぼしていますか。
非常に悪影響を及ぼしていますね。ですね、中今さん自身は最初2006年の選挙では辺野古移設容認という立場でした。これ条件付きな容認なんですが、それから2010年の選挙の時に、辺野古移設の反対を明示したんですよね。この移設を反対を方針転換させたのが今の尾長武知事と言われています。彼が後援会長として、中今さんの選挙公約作りにあたって、中今さんの選挙公約を転換させ辺野古移設反対と納得させたということで、それで中今さんは知事に当選できたというそういった流れになっています。
So actually, what Nakaima did truly damaged our case a great deal. To reflect back, in 2006, for the 2006 elections, the then Governor Nakaima stated in his platform that he would allow relocation to Henoko, but with conditions applied. In the 2010 elections, he clearly stated that he was opposed to relocation to Henoko. And what happened was that supposedly, Onaga-san, who is the current governor, he was heading the support group for Mr. Nakaima's election campaign, and he was working on developing and generating Nakaima's election platform. He basically convinced Nakaima to take the approach that he was opposed to a relocation to Henoko, and that was how Nakaima won the election and became governor.
それで中今さんはどうもその時に、しぶしぶこれも英語で言ったら難しいです、どうも、リラクタンっていうんですかね、そんなに、自分の哲学から根本的にその辺野古の移設反対を、言ったようではなく、そのなんですかね、状況を見ながら判断して、主張していたようで、その証拠に2010年の県民大会、その後の県民大会、いろんな県民大会があるんですが、中今さんはほとんど来なかったんですよね。そして重要なのは2013年の1月の憲白書、そこでも中今さんは署名してないです。辺野古の反対、移設断念、県内移設断念を要求する、沖縄憲白書というのがあるんですが、それについて中今さんだけはサインをしていないという状況があったんです。でその後10ヶ月後ですか、方針転換をして辺野古容認という形になるんで、今考えてみればですね、そういったその容認に転ずる、布石は今から考えればあったということですね。おそらく辺野古の容認ということも念頭に置きながら県政をやっていたのだというふうに、今から考えれば分かります。でその容認が結局は今の建設推進の根拠になってますんで、非常にその大きな禍根を沖縄に残したと思ってます。
Now, supposedly, Nakaima reluctantly agreed to support the opposition to Henoko relocation. He was not necessarily driven by a strong personal belief that he should oppose the relocation. Rather, it appears as if he was making his determination and closely monitoring the situation, taking a see how it goes approach. Now, as proof of that, he did not show up when we held the Grand Assembly of Okinawans in 2010. Actually, subsequently, of course, there have been many similar Grand Assemblies being held, and he rarely showed up to any of those. I think an important telling point is that in January of 2013, when we had the petition to oppose the relocation to Henoko that many Okinawans took part in, Nakaima did not sign that document. So that, I believe, was a very telling point. And then, of course, 10 months after that, he changed his mind and he said that he would allow or accept relocation to Henoko. So now when we look back, we see that there were various signs, telltale signs that he would eventually condone the relocation to Henoko. And I believe that his acceptance of the relocation to Henoko was always an option in the back of his mind, even as he was running the Okinawan government. And of course, the basis for the current construction work that is ongoing is Nakaima's acceptance of that plan. So, of course, I think he has forced a huge burden on the Okinawans.
All right, well, unfortunately, we have time for only one more question. And I saw your hand go up rather early, so, yeah, you. Yeah, dozo. So I saw him before I saw you, so sorry.
北海道新聞の西村と申します。先ほどから自己決定権の問題について興味深くお話を伺いましたけれども、おそらく自己決定権について東京の政府からはやはり沖縄も日本の一部である以上、一定程度の自己決定権の制限をやむを得ないだろうという反論が来るのではないかと思います。で、島袋さんのおっしゃる、また沖縄の方が求める自己決定権は無制限のものなのか、それともある程度制限されてもいいが現状は制限されすぎているということなのか、そこを伺った上で、もしある程度折り合いのつける部分があるとするなら、どういう状況になるのか、その自己決定権と政府の統治権というんでしょうか、その折り合いのつけられる部分は今の現実においてどのようなところになるのかお考えを伺いたいと思います。
So the question from Mr. Nishiwa of Hokkaido Shimbun was your presentation on self-determination for the Okinawan people I found to be very interesting. Now, Tokyo's perspective will probably be, yes, there is self-determination, but as long as Okinawa is a part of Japan, then you must accept some limits to that self-determination. So in your mind, Professor Shimabukuro, for you and the people of Okinawa, is the right to self-determination that you are seeking without any bounds, without any limits, or do you accept that there are certain limits, but the current situation exceeds even that scope? And do you believe that there is some kind of a compromise or an acceptable middle ground for having your right to self-determination, but also accepting governance from the government?
はい、ですね、まず現実的に国連の人種差別撤廃委員会なり、従権規約委員会なり、そういった国連の人権委員会が要求している、日本政府に要求している自己決定権の実現、それについてお話ししたいと思います。
So what I'd like to do is share with you what the United Nations Human Rights Council and the United Nations Council Against Racial Discrimination has been demanding the Japanese government to do.
手元にこの資料入ってたかどうかちょっとわからないんですが、確か2010年の人種差別撤廃委員会、そして2014年もあったと思います。これですね、沖縄の代表と軍事基地の集中、それからその沖縄の文化、社会、経済的な発展のこの侵害について幅広い協議の場を設けて、きちんと沖縄の人々の権利を保護しなさいって言ってるんですよ。この幅広い協議の場、沖縄の代表 との幅広い協議の場を作りなさいということなんですが、これは沖縄の代表というものは選挙で負けた後、その公約をですね、否定されて選挙に負けた後、その人が協議のしてサインしてもダメだわけですよね。いいですか、今ので。
So I believe that this was actually raised at the UN Committee against for the abolishment of racial discrimination in 2010 and then also in 2014. Their recommendation was that there should be a forum for a broad-based discussion with the representative of Okinawa to discuss the issue of the military presence and how that is hindering economic growth and how that is an obstacle for the enrichment of culture in Okinawa. Now, they have specifically recommended that we have a broad-based discussion, a forum for a broad-based discussion. And when you think about it, if the representative of Okinawa loses in an election because his mandate fails to gain acceptance by the electorate, then it doesn't really matter if that representative is involved in the discussions and then signs off on it. That shouldn't be right.
ですからきちんと選挙公約を認められて、それでもって沖縄の声を代表できる人、それと議論し合って納得できる結論に至った合意事項であれば受け入れることができる。しかしそうでない場合は沖縄の人々と沖縄の代表と協議の場を設けて、そして人権を保護するということにならないわけですよね。だから少なくとも沖縄の代表と正式な権威ある沖縄の代表と日本政府が沖縄の自己決定権を前提とした形で、議論し合って沖縄の側の承認を得るというような手続きがまず必要だと思います。
Now, I believe that only after the representative of Okinawa has won a mandate from the people and actively takes part in a discussion which leads to an agreement, then only after that can the people consider that agreement to be acceptable. As long as that is not the case, then we cannot view it as somebody actually representing the Okinawans and having the human rights of the Okinawan people in their interest. I believe that what needs to happen is first for the officially recognized representative of Okinawans who can actually represent their views has a formal discussion with the Japanese government based on the premise of the Okinawans having the right to self-determination, and then through those discussions there emerges an agreement that the Okinawans can accept.
で、次に日本国憲法の中で考えることもできるんですよね。これ憲法95条に地域特別法っていうのがあって、その地域の人々の人権に関わる重要事項についてはきちんとその地域の住民投票に付すことっていうことが日本国憲法の要請です。ところが沖縄しか適用されない特別法を一回も住民投票にかけたことがない。特にひどいのが71年の公用地暫定使用法、沖縄における公用地暫定使用法っていうのが正式名称です。これさえも住民投票にかけていない。
And another option is for us to look at this from the viewpoint of the Japanese Constitution. Article 95 of the Japanese Constitution relates to the regional special law. Basically, the Japanese Constitution stipulates that a referendum must be held if there are special considerations being made that will have a substantial impact on the human rights of the people living in that region. Despite that, however, in Okinawa there has never been a single referendum held about any of the special laws that pertain specifically to Okinawa. I believe that the most aggravating case is the one of the special law which was passed in 1971, which is the provisional use of public land in Okinawa.
ですから少なくともこの沖縄にしか適用されない特別法を住民投票に付す、それだけでも本当はやるべきだと思います。それで日本の基本的な政治の構造は大きく大転換する。大転換させたくないからやらないんでしょうけれども、せめてそれぐらいは今のその独立ですとかその自己決定権とか主張しなくたってやるべきことできることなわけですよね。少なくともそれぐらいは本来はすでにやっておくべきことであったし、今からでもやるべきことだというふうに思います。その後のスコットランド型の例えば一時立法権を持つような高度な政府ですとか、それからまたスコットランドの例を出しますが、外的自決っていうものは次の段階の問題で、まず第一に今の体制、今の法律憲法でできること、それぐらいはせめてやると、それぐらいは沖縄から当然に要求していい、自己決定権のごく基本的な処方の段階だと思います。それさえも認めていないんで、そこぐらいは最低でも認めるべきだと思います。早急にですね、認めるべきだと思います。
So even the special laws which are specific to Okinawa and have a huge impact to Okinawa have never been subjected to a referendum. And at the very least, I believe that we should be doing a referendum on those special laws pertaining to Okinawa. That would actually be a huge change for the way politics works in Japan. Of course, I'm sure that the referendums have never been held specifically because people do not want to see that kind of big change, big sea change. But in any case, even before we start talking about independence for us or the right to self-determination, I think there are basic things that should have been done and that should still be done. In the case of Scotland, they have the ability to pass legislation and also make decisions regarding external threats. Now, that would be several steps beyond what we are currently considering, but even for today's situation in Okinawa, I think there are some very basic primary things that we can do in terms of ensuring that we have the very basic right to self-determination, and we should be doing those things as quickly as possible.
Okay, well, please give a warm thank you to our guest for coming and explaining his point of view on these issues.
はい、どうもありがとうございました。どうもありがとうございます。
And also, I think our interpreter also deserves a hand. There were some difficult passages there. And I have some good news. He will stay a few minutes if you want to exchange meishi with him to keep in contact in the future. So please.